I am sufficiently calmed. I think, right? I am. I think next Sunday we should do Heavy Metal Sunday and see if we could still maintain our spiritual connection at Heavy Metal Sunday. You want to do that? It's easy to get spiritual when, like, with calm noises and things, right? I mean, it's easy to get spiritual with calm, with meditation, with silence, and with quiet. We go to the mountains. And that's easy. That's easy to do. I have found that's not life. I found I go seek that when I'd like that nourishment, but I found that that doesn't happen very often. I'm blessed and grateful for the moments. But a spiritual path and a spiritual walk is my commitment to staying connected to my heart, my dignity, and my soul in the midst of all of it. And unless you're going to pack everything up, put it in storage, or sell it all off and head to the mountains to the monastery, you're going to hear traffic on Cerrillos and see the homeless guy and all that other kind of stuff, right? Spiritual community and the spiritual walk is a fearlessness. It's not a fearlessness. I don't believe in fearlessness anymore. I don't find fearlessness. It's an unwavering commitment to see the spirit and the dignity in the midst of all of it. So I come to you, I have expressed my interest in being the spiritual director of this community, being its senior minister. And quite frankly, it's not because I want to. When I started, and I'll unpack that so you're not offended. When I started a church a while ago with a group of people. Some of them are listening to this morning. Good morning, all that are joining remotely. And I had an opportunity to revisit that. I had a conversation with some of my old congregants this week. They're doing some research and on what it looks like to start a community and the early moments of it. And they asked me about some things, and so I had an opportunity to walk down memory lane. And the first thing that we talked about was I was living in Chicago at the time, and I worked at an emerging community there called the Bodhi Center with a man named Reverend Mark Anthony Lord, a wonderful man. And it was starting to become clear that my short time there was coming to an end. So I was asking, now what? Right? That kind of inward, down on your knees posture of what's next? What do you want from me kind of thing? You know, what am I going to do? And I was walking down the street next to the train tracks, and I heard a voice. And it's one of the very few times in my life that the spirit, that the essence, that universal intelligence actually showed up like a human voice, somebody standing next to me. And it said, I can only do through you what I need to do by you going to Seattle and starting this center. Okay. Right? So everything inside of me was like, no way. But I heard it. And so I had to. And so we were continuing on with this conversation that I was having with these folks this week. It clarified for me what it actually means to walk this walk. And so within that, leading a spiritual community and being in a spiritual community, there's all sorts of choices to be made. Who's a member? What are we going to do on Sunday? What classes are we going to teach? You know, all the worldly stuff. What are we going to do? What's the curriculum we're going to roll out in our programming, and how do we grow it, and how do we market it, and, you know, all the stuff that sometimes can make you crazy. But I knew as we were unfolding Genesis that in the midst of that, all of that stuff was secondary, consequential, but also inconsequential, because I was already in the game. And the game was, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So any question we had about what to do was kind of inconsequential, because I already heard the voice. I heard the Spirit. It touched my heart. And so there's a peace that comes along with living within that, which brings me back to the statement I just made. I didn't necessarily I had no ideas of being the minister of a church ever again. Ask those closest to me. I was done with church. Jim even brought it up in one of my interview meetings. He said at one point, you said, what did I say, Jim? Something like, you know, church is horrible or something like that. That's not exactly what I said, but something akin to that. And I did, because that's where I was. I had my heart broken by it. I had my heart broken by the people I was ministering to. I had my heart broken by the structure of it and what I thought was supposed to happen in a church that wasn't happening. And who wants to go back to a place where your heart has been broken? I'm not seeking that out. Probably most of us aren't. So I went away from it. And the Spirit has this way of kind of like having, I want to say this in a way that I really mean it, like, you know, having its own agenda for your life. You know, when you actually really surrender. You know, I was living out of heartbrokenness. So that has everything to do with Charles' agenda, doesn't it? Preference, what I prefer. But then as I continued to get softer, listen more, read more, kind of crack my heart open just a little bit more, okay, this is really painful trying to do all this stuff by myself. Maybe there is something other than me that is intelligent. Maybe there's something other than me that is an intelligent power. Maybe there's something other than me that created this universe. Maybe there's something other than me that is governing this whole thing, that is beneficial, that is loving, that is beautiful. So the heart started opening. And then when that happens, possibility starts to reign in our lives. Possibility. And that's where this came from, is possibility. What I know I'm committed to is walking softer through the world. What I'm committed to as a minister is teaching and kind of being a purveyor of spiritual principle in the way that I relate to it. So that kind of like here's how it occurred to me in the shower this morning, which you all know at this point is a place for high holy thinking, right? Yes, it is. That's the depth of meditation. That's where insight really comes from. And God was like the Spirit. When I say God, it is that thing that I am not, right? That thing that has the same pattern that is existing within the electrons within our body. It's the same pattern in the solar system. You and I didn't create that. We don't have the intellectual capacity to create that. That's how we know there's God. How I know it now is harmony. That there's a harmony, and no matter what, that harmony is going to express itself. So I better get on the train or not. But I found that it's more pleasurable and purposeful and fruitful on the train. So here's what I likened it to. And I actually have a talk prepared, and this happens every time, and I haven't gotten to any of it. So hopefully the food and those wonderful homemade brownies don't get stale back there, because we're going to be here a while, gang. Just kidding. My daughter, first thing she says when it walks in, Dad, how long is this thing going to last? I mean, you want humility, right? Just hang out with your kids. It's like it's like, hey, I think that I've found a nourishing river over the hills over there. I think I've found something that's nourishing, that I can go drink of and actually have my thirst quenched and feel a sense of peace inside of me. I think I've found that. And I think it would be a lot of fun if we go there together. I think we could have a lot of fun hiking over them thar hills and being on the adventure of the walk together. And let's see again together if we can find that nourishing river and sit by it and tell stories about the beauty of life. And when we're thirsty, put our hands into the river and bring the water to our face and be nourished by it. And listen to the babble of the river. Listen to the talk of the river and be nourished by it. And along the way to this river, we're going to do our best to be as prepared as we possibly can with a tent, with a sleeping bag, with some good boots, with some food, with something to start a fire with. But inevitably, what's going to happen between here and the river? We can't get the fire going. Rain wasn't in the forecast, but it's raining tonight. What are we going to do? We didn't bring a tarp for a lean-to. How are we going to stay dry? The adventure. My sleeping bag got wet. Now what? I'm cold. Now what? I blew a tire. These shoes looked good when we started the journey, but the sole's popping out of it. My socks weren't the right socks, and I got blisters now. Now what? On the way where? To the river that has nourishing, life-giving waters. And what are we doing? We're walking the adventure together. A guide might have some insight about the process, but what has even more insight is the collective. Sharing of ideas. Oh, I heard that when the sole starts to pop off your shoe, if you wrap some duct tape around it, which I happen to have, what are you doing with duct tape? I don't know, I just happen to have it. Oh, cool. Let's wrap it up, and then we keep walking. It's the blessing of community. It's the blessing of walking it together. No one that ever stands up here, no matter how profound they sound, no matter charismatic they are, no matter how well they can tell a story or woo you and wed you and awe you, knows your answer. No one. You do. And any minister worth their salt will simply say, I think I know where the nourishing waters are. Let's walk together. And it may be that we take a detour. And it may be that we check this out and check that out. And you have the opportunity to bring your truth to the adventure. Diving deep within your own soul. Within your own soul. The problem, pause. The issue I have with the Bible is that people have made it this factual thing that we ascribe to live like. I have an issue with that. Because it's messed for thousands of years, it's messed all of our psyches up. We're all messed up. That we think we're supposed to live a certain way, or that spirituality is supposed to look a certain way, or sound a certain way, or look like Jesus. I have a strong sense that if Jesus was right here, he would say otherwise. I have a strong sense of that. Dive into your own heart and find your own heaven. Find your own life-giving well, your own water inside of you, and live from that. We're all twisted psychologically about this spiritual journey. Messed up in our heads, and then messed up in our hearts. The God of the Bible, and if you don't ascribe to the God of the Bible, then I don't want to have anything to do with you. What kind of warped-ass thinking is that? And I believe it's okay to say ass on a Sunday morning. And many other things, which I won't say right now. But to understand, it's why I make jokes about heavy metal. And, I was looking at YouTube videos this week about how funny it is when a minister, like a church filled with hundreds of people, and all of a sudden somebody farts, and how funny it is, and what happens, and everybody freaks out. And it's like, are we here to embrace our humanity and our divinity, or just try and pretend something? Just try and pretend that it's all good and we're free. We're not, man. We're in the human condition. But we're on this walk because we've heard that there's life-giving water someplace out there, and we're going to walk and find it together and embrace our humanity. So here's the talk about possibility, all right? I'm going to condense it because I've already been going for a while. How long have I been going for? Does it matter? Only to my daughter. So, possibilities, right? She can't even hear me. Can you hear me? Hey, Pidge. Neela. Oh, okay, good. So let's talk about possibilities for a minute. By the way, the cane thing, when I was a kid, so I grew up watching like hip hop, and I was educated in a certain way, so with certain information. And back when I was a kid and growing up, a cane was like a cool thing, man. You walk with a cane and it looked like this. Steph, thank you for laughing. Right now, a cane is like, I got to support this whole body and getting around. Anyway, I look at the cane and that's where I go. By the way, the spiritual journey, I'm convinced this minister, that if I'm actually working principle and walking in the way that I think I'm supposed to walk, I'm laughing a lot more. There's a lot more joy in my life. Seriously, there's a lot more moments to like stop and really laugh at ourselves. There's a lot more, that's possibility. There's a lot more moments to say, oh man, that was wild, wasn't it? Not, oh, we messed up. Oh, we screwed that one up. What is screwing it up anyway? It's probably the Bible's idea of how you're supposed to live. Or some whack-ass minister's idea of how you're supposed to live. We want to listen to that anymore? Is there freedom there? Is there joy there? Is there life-giving water there? Or is there constriction there? You're supposed to live like this, live like that, chaste and poverty and what? What? And tame and quiet. It's wild. There's this beast inside of each one of us. That's a good beast, not the dark beast. This animal, this wild that hasn't been broken, this horse that hasn't been tamed and broken. I don't know anything about horses, but I know that once you break them, they're going to do exactly what you want them to do, right? And before that, they're wild Mustangs. Isn't there a wild pack of horses I've heard? I've only been here a year, but some pack of wild horses that live somewhere between here and Albuquerque? No, yeah, something I think. Yeah, there are, right? So here's the talk on possibilities. There are three aspects to it. This is where I go back in my here's I'm going to deliver a sermon to you this morning. Establish a foundation for possibility. Establish the expression of possibility. And then behold possibility. Establish the foundation of possibility. Establish the expression of possibility. And then behold possibility. What does that mean? The first thing I want to say that is the foundation of all of it and what I'm learning and realizing more and more is that love isn't love unless love is expressed without any expectation of return. That's love. And that's where possibility exists. Another way of saying it, love is only love when there's no expectation of return. That's what I'm interested in now. That's where fulfillment comes from. Giving. And then what has been said is that my rewards are stored up in heaven. Not the heaven that's someplace far off that doesn't exist. Consider it like mythology. It's a cool story and can lead us back to our own heart. What does it mean to establish a foundation of possibility? Three things within this one thing. I'm going straight back to my homiletics classes, gang. Point one, there are 3 points. One, you got to get in relationship with your own spirit, not my relationship and not your relationship and not Ernest Holmes' relationship. It's akin to like Ernest Holmes coming to you and saying, this is what God's about, and then that's all that you do. But you don't ever get into your own relationship with what God is. I used to think of it like, I know this truth so well and so much that Jesus, Buddha, even my own grandma could come right in front of me and try and talk me out of it. And I would know that it's my relationship. The same way that we have relationships with each other, long-term relationships. We have to get into relationship with the Spirit. That's where possibility lies. Or else we're only living within somebody else's possibility. What they've seen. And then they report back. And that's the limit of your possibility. You with me?
Yes.
Somebody say amen.
Yes, yay.
Get in relationship with your own spirit. Then your possibility will emerge. Somebody else's possibility is a cabin on top of the mountain. Your possibility is a cabin next to the river. The second thing is to count your blessings. This is to establish a foundation of possibility. Count your blessings. My family used to say that to me all the time. My grandma, count your blessings, Charlie. She's 101 now. She sounds just about like that. Count your blessings, Charlie. She just turned 101. We don't know if she's ever going to die. She's biblical. She might never die. We thought she might like 2 months ago, and then she's back, like full health. Like, count your blessings, Charlie. That's my grandma. Count your blessings. What are your blessings? The health of your body, the health of your mind, And if your mind isn't healthy, your body's healthy. We count our blessings. The love that we share, the community we sit amongst right now, none of us are alone. You're not alone. Look around. None of us are alone. And if we need help, look who you can ask for help from. Count your blessings. Think about your body. Think about your brain. Think about the foot that does work. Think about the cane that's there to support you. Think about the love that we share. Think about the love that you have in your life. Count your blessings.
Charlie, count your blessings.
Proclaim your rarity. Do any of you know how many human beings have existed on the planet since human beings have existed? Anybody know? 120, about 100, give or take about 120 billion. About 120 billion human beings have existed on the planet since human beings have been. You know how many possibilities for human beings there have been? Countless possibilities for human beings. I mean, we're talking biology here, but we're talking sperm and eggs and the combination. And here you are. You made it. You're rare. And you know what's even more cool about our rarity? Is that you're rare individually, but then look at the collection of rarity that's here. Individually, there's not been one like you in the history of human beings out of all the possibilities, and here you are. And then look at the here we are. That's to establish a foundation of possibility. Just the way we are. Second thing is establish the expression of possibility. I'm going to start speeding up now because I know everybody's getting hungry and there's food back there and my daughter's going to start eyeballing me. The two things you do within that are to pray, not to some God that's far off. I'm so grateful I learned a long time ago. Prayer does two things. It gets your mind and your heart right, and it does something to the one praying. Prayer does something to the one praying, not to God. God's there, infinite possibility, existing in all in its wholeness. Prayer does something to the one praying. We have to do something to ourselves to get ourselves into the realm of possibility. And always, always go the extra mile. This is to establish ourselves in the realm of possibility. It says in a book by Og Mandino, The Greatest Miracle in the World, if you can go 1 mile, go 2. That's an expression of our rarity, of our specialness. When we're talking about any endeavor and digging into something and putting our stamp on it, if you can go 1 mile, go 2. 1 mile's fine, but generally 1 mile is mediocre. That second mile is excellence. And there's joy there. And we see what we're made of, and there's possibility, and there's richness, and there's juiciness. It's an orange all over your face instead of a saltine cracker. And then we behold possibility. Thee that have, though they, thee, they, though, I don't even use those words. I don't know why I'm saying them. If they that have eyes to see and ears to hear, behold the possibilities at hand. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear. How do you have eyes to see and ears to hear? You pray. You get your mind right. Prayer does something to the one praying. We examine it and we explore it. And we have eyes to see then and ears to hear the possibility that exists here, not the limitation, not how it has been, how it can be, and the rarity and the miracle that you are. And then we experience joy and gratitude. Gratitude and joy. More times to smile, more times to be spontaneous, more times that when you have that thing that says, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be in this situation, you change. You're spontaneous. This is what people do in this situation. Like, it'd probably be weird to a lot of us if I went back and just made myself a plate of food and came back up here and started eating it, right? I'm okay with doing stuff like that, mostly nowadays. Spontaneity, joy. Are they judging me? Well, yeah, they are. I work at this new teen center that's right down the street. I had a group of the teens say to me this week, that dude's weird. So as soon as I got over the interpretation in my head that said, they don't like me, but all they said was, that guy's weird, then I came around to, you're damn right, man, and I spent 49 years trying to get this weird. Right? And I'm going to embrace it. I spent a long time working on this weird. Let's have some fun. And I have a great relationship with them. But as an example for myself and for them, the kids, whoever, the teens, embrace the you that is you. Work on perfecting it. Behold the possibility that is your life. And all of these things, gang, let us do them with love. Let's do everything with love. The giving that doesn't seek return. It simply seeks to give. And in that is the blessing. We'll finish with the words of Ernest Holmes, because he is a mystical master. You are never limited by the principle of your being. Limitation is a result of limited use of this principle. You can come to but one conclusion. There is something which honors your belief, not in a big way in one place and a little way in another. Rather, it honors your belief as you believe it. And you must learn to become consciously aware of the divine presence that is within you. The wholeness of truth, of love and reason, and of sound mind. Instead of dwelling on negative thoughts, cause your mind to dwell on peace and joy. Know that the power of the invisible Spirit is working in and through you now, at this very moment. Lay hold of this realization with complete certainty. I am interested in being your senior minister. I am interested in going on the journey with you. I think we can have a tremendous amount of fun together. And it's entirely up to you. I'm at peace. But I live here. And I want to have a place to express the spiritual gifts that I